Hi everybody, welcome to the SKYREAL 1.13 highlights webinar. I'll be taking you through some of the new features that are in version 1.13 and ably assisted by my colleague Nicholas in the Paris office. So first of all, I'm really pleased to say that the vast majority of the features that we've added in version 1.13 have come via user requests. So we're responding to our users in helping us develop the software and take it forward. I'm also really pleased to say that part of the release of 1.13 is to support the latest version of Unreal. So we're now supporting Unreal version 4.26. As a result of that, we've made some changes to the software. So I'll be taking you through, first of all, the updates and changes to SkyPrep, and then we're going to move through to the new features and additions to SKYREAL VR itself. So in terms of SkyPrep, first of all, we've put some tools in the software to allow you to automatically update your projects to the latest version of Unreal. So that's all being taken care of as you move and take advantage of all their new technology that they put in their new release. We've also made some updates and changes to the output selection, and a big user request that's gone into the new version of SkyPrep is a button to automatically open up your SKYREAL session as soon as the SkyPrep has finished processing the file. So why don't we hop across to Nicholas's machine and take a look at some of those features. So here is SkyPrep. First of all, we're just looking in the settings, and here you can see how we've set up to work on the latest version of Unreal. And then if we go across and take a look at the export side, you can see here where we've set it to automatically give us the editor version and the cooked version and create the SkyPrep file as part of the output. So like I was saying, one of the key things that users ask for is this little button here, which means as soon as the file has finished processing, it will automatically launch SkyReal and take you straight into the session. So that's an example of some of the updates. And also we have a key feature, just to add, as Nicholas just prompted me to remind me, is that we found when translating in lots and lots of data, you often get two planes that are co-located and in the same Z space. And now we can just do a minor kind of joggle to that data and deform the two planes by a tiny little amount. And that stops a lot of the polygon flashing that you sometimes witness when looking at files with coplanar faces. So that's a neat little feature that we've added into the software as well. Okay, so that's some of the updates that we've made to SkyPrep itself. Let's take you through and look at what's new in terms of SKYREAL. So first and foremost, you're going to see the biggest change is a new user interface. We now have a thumbnail view for all the projects, and that's not only a picture of your project, but also along with that thumbnail is all the associated resources that you typically have. So for instance, saved images, different saved versions of the file, etc., all kind of neatly located in the new UI. The UI is accessible from within your session just by pressing the escape menu. So if we have a look across, for instance, onto Nicholas's screen, here you can see the new UI with the thumbnails. And when he clicks on a project, he can select any of the screenshots that are in there and say, for instance, make that the new thumbnail for the project and for the background as well, which is really cool. But also here's all the saved versions in terms of the original one, the various backups and everything. So everything nicely collected and under the thumbnail in the new UI. And like I was saying, that's accessible by just using the escape key and flipping across to the home even when you're in the session. So a couple of other neat features I'm going to talk about. Firstly, hotkeys. This is a big user request. So particularly when working with large data sets, it's often useful to be able to use the keyboard and use a bunch of hotkeys when selecting and manipulating parts. We'll take you through and show you that in just a second. And these, as always with us, are user customizable, so you can set up your own configurations. The next big request that we got was around environments. So we've added a number of new environments into SKYREAL for you to place your data in, make it a little bit more realistic. And these are proper environments you're going to see. And once again, as with the keyboard shortcuts, these are user customizable. So if we just flip across to Nicholas's screen and have a look, here we see him, for instance, using the escape key to hop out. Here's where it's setting up the hotkeys. So you can see hide, show, remove, fit to view. And a couple of things that we've done, particularly around working with large data, is, for instance, the hide and manipulate. So when we're zooming in, say, for instance, on this cabin door here, we can quickly pick it. We can do various hides and stuff on it, but also we can move along an axis. And that was a big request that came in from the users in terms of manipulating objects. So a quick hotkey to access the part and then move it around on the different axes. And there you can see he's pulling up the data file for it. Okay, so also I mentioned environments. So again, using a hotkey to bring out the tab panel. Here you can see a selection of the standard environments. And these are proper 3D environments. They're not just 2D texture maps. So you see, for instance, as we bring the environments in, you can see them casting shadows and affecting the lighting in the scene. And for instance, we can even manipulate the lighting. So for instance, we go up into the sky, and here we can pull around not only the global intensity, but also the sunlight. We can pull up parameters about the clouds and everything. So proper 3D procedural environments to set your projects in. And again, these can also be custom configured from your own project files. One cool thing, just to make a last point on environments, is that you can move the environment around. So a lot of times, particularly if you're just using standard environments, it's kind of annoying that they always come in the wrong place, and then you have to change the model positioning. Not here. We can just automatically grab hold of that environment, start to move it around. Okay, so that's covered environments. A couple of other new features and new setups. So firstly, in terms of collaboration, we're now supporting voice over IP, and so you can set up accessing your colleagues much easier now using a voice over IP selection. And also what we've put in there is a great little feature called Minimap, which we'll show you in a second, for finding your colleagues when you're particularly navigating large project files. Another key thing in terms of usability has been the addition of the bracelet. So this is a bit like having a smartwatch on your wrist when you're in VR. So you can assign to that bracelet standard commands or custom commands that you typically use a lot of when in the VR environment. So when you're using the controllers and you're navigating around or selecting or doing particular setups like in Manikin, things like that, then that's a particularly powerful feature in terms of being able to quickly access those controls. Okay, so why don't we just hop across back to Nicholas's screen and have a look at that. So here you can see how he's set up the collaboration. He can pick another colleague to join and grant permissions, and then he can use the mini-map as well to navigate and find those people. So if we jump across into VR, there you can see Baptiste is joining us in the session, and if we now jump across into VR, we can now use the mini-map to locate him. So a couple of neat things that we can do in the mini-map. Firstly, it's a great way of looking at the project and understanding it, so you can see it being brought up via the pie menu, and there you can see the interface. So it shows you where Nicholas is, it shows you where Baptiste is. You just grab hold of the mini map and kind of zoom it, manipulate it around. So it's particularly useful if the file is large. And then you can pick who you want to jump to and position yourself. And there we are down next to Baptiste, and we've joined him. A couple of other neat things that you can do is, and this is a good example of using the bracelet, is you may be navigating around and in the voice over IP chat, one of your colleagues says, come over here and look at this. And you think, well, where is he? So you can quickly pull up here and we can jump to where he is, or equally, which is quite useful, we can make him jump to where we are. So for instance, if Nicholas positions himself down and clicks the icon for Baptiste, he will then jump to where Nicholas is. So that's a really neat feature in terms of navigating around and finding yourself and your colleagues in complex, large scenes. Also on the bracelet are things like navigation controls. So for instance, we can quickly bring up, this is good if you're, again, moving around a model. We can jump between walk mode, fly mode, or we can set the different speeds. We can use the different kind of navigation techniques such as jump to. So sometimes you just want to quickly access those controls on the fly, and to save you going back through the Pine menu, you can just click down and use them, like I said, a bit like having a smartwatch on your wrist while you're navigating around. So if I just hop back to me for a second, one of the next things I want to talk to you about is Mannequins. So Mannequins has gone through a number of key improvements in version 1.13, and particular in those is the addition of using MSD data now displayed upon the mannequin. So this is really key in terms of understanding the positions that we're putting workers in and possible issues. So this is using our ruler method, the standard ruler method that's used for calculating MSDs. And this can be actually seen live on the mannequin as you're positioning it. So if we jump back to Nicholas's screen, here you see he's put a mannequin in the scene and just dropping another one in next to him. He can use the bracelet to pop up the mannequin commands quickly and easily while working. So again, you know, just that smooth kind of easy mode of working. And if we activate the MSD calculations, you can see it live on the mannequin. So as the mannequin moves into different positions, you'll see the different icons going from yellow to green to red to indicate any issues. So for here, for instance, we pick up the hand. As you see, the hand moves. We go in and out of tolerance. So outputs can also be via an output file for further analysis, but this kind of live feedback while you're positioning the mannequin and working with the mannequin is a real advantage to having a quick understanding of any potential issues. Okay, so that's some of the features that have been added into Mannequin. Then next was a big request was to bring in metadata. So now we can import metadata from a PLM system, so any PLM XML file, or basically any CSV format file can be brought in. Now once you've got it in, it becomes an attribute onto the data, so you can then search by it, select by it. So for instance, you can select all of the objects in the scene that are, say for instance, weigh more than 10 kilograms, or select all the parts in my assembly that come from third-party suppliers. So for instance, if we hop back to Nicholas's screen, and here's how we import the data. So import metadata. Like I said, it's just a simple CSV file, that format that we use. So for instance, if we go grab a CSV file, we've just got an example here created using a local Excel, but obviously will come directly from the PLM. So once imported, we can see all of the data, so part numbers, assemblies, and here, for instance, we're bringing in weight and a maturity level. So once we've got that in the scene and imported it, we can then apply that to all the data. So for instance, now if we bring up the side tab using the hotkeys again, and we can go in and look at all of that information. So there, for instance, as we select the parts, it pops up, and now we can do a search by it and set up a group and a product tree and a selection by it. And just speaking about product trees or functional trees, we've also made quite a few changes, again from user requests there. So now in terms of working with the trees, not only do we have the ATA selection for standard part numbering and naming within aircraft, then also we can do custom ones. So for instance, here we're picking up this box, we're looking at not only its logical view but also its dependents. So we can see here which subtrees it's in and which get affected by its movement and its different groups. And we can go ahead and create some of our own. So for instance, again, if we want to pull together all the forward parts of the air conditioning system into one selected group, we can do that. Or for instance, everything below a height of 30 or something like that, we can easily go in and set that up inside the functional tree. So a lot of, again, user request features for driving and working with very large data sets to make it easy to use when working within the system. Okay, so that's given you hopefully a very quick highlight of some of the new things that are coming in 1.13. We often get asked what's coming around the corner. So first of all, in terms of 1.14, we're having big discussions around XR Center. This is something that we announced latter part of last year, and really this is our idea of pulling together again under one kind of collective user interface, everything from asset libraries and data storage, but also how to set up collaboration sessions, different users' rights for accessing parts, right through to the toolboxes and everything else that come up in the experiences. So it's a great way of collecting together all the assets and project managing it as people get into using SKYREAL more and more on a daily basis and for lots and lots of different projects and sub-projects, and the complexity of the projects grows, then the XR Center is going to be a great way of keeping all of that data together and making it manageable. So we look forward to telling you a bit more about that as we roll it out. But in terms of version 1.13 and today's quick highlights, thank you very much for attending, and we'll talk to you soon.